Watch this elevator footage closely. A young woman enters, presses multiple buttons, then hides in the corner. She peeks out, waves her arms strangely, and steps in and out repeatedly. The elevator doors won't close. She seems to be talking to someone. But she's completely alone. Days later, hotel guests complained their water tasted strange. What they found in the water tank on the roof would become one of the most disturbing unsolved mysteries of the internet age. Welcome back to the Missing Files, where we investigate the most baffling disappearances that have ever occurred. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, because today's case is one of the most haunting and widely discussed mysteries in recent history. Elisa Lam was a 21-year-old Canadian student who vanished from the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles in January 2013. The case would have been tragic enough on its own, but surveillance footage from a hotel elevator turned this into a global phenomenon. The video has been watched hundreds of millions of times, and it sparked countless theories, ranging from the logical to the absolutely terrifying. But the elevator footage is only part of the story. What happened to Elisa Lam involves a hotel with a dark history, bizarre circumstances, and a discovery that shocked even seasoned investigators. This is a case where every answer leads to more questions. Elisa Lam was born in Vancouver, Canada, and was studying at the University of British Columbia. She was intelligent, creative, and passionate about fashion and travel. Those who knew her described her as friendly and enthusiastic about life. But Elisa also struggled with bipolar disorder and depression, conditions she managed with medication and treatment. In January 2013, Elisa decided to take a solo trip along the west coast of the United States. She planned to visit San Diego, Los Angeles, and Santa Cruz. She documented her journey through her blog and social media, sharing photos and thoughts about the places she visited. Everything seemed normal and exciting. On January 26, 2013, Elisa checked into the Cecil Hotel in downtown Los Angeles. She was staying in a shared hostel room on one of the upper floors. The Cecil Hotel was a budget accommodation known for offering cheap rates to travelers and long-term residents. But the Cecil had a reputation. A dark one. Before we go further, you need to understand a place where Elisa spent her final days. The Cecil Hotel, built in 1924, was once a glamorous establishment. But over the decades, it became known as one of the most notorious hotels in America. The Cecil had been the site of numerous deaths, suicides, and murders. In 1947, Elizabeth Short, known as the Black Dahlia, was reportedly seen at the Cecil shortly before her brutal murder. Serial killers Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, and Jack Unterweger both stayed at the Cecil while actively committing murders in Los Angeles. The hotel had such a dark reputation that some people believe it was cursed or haunted. By 2013, the Cecil was attempting to rebrand part of its building as the Stay on Main Hostel to attract budget travelers and backpackers. This is where Elisa was staying. But the building's history couldn't be erased, and many guests reported feeling uncomfortable or experiencing strange occurrences during their stays. Elisa checked in on January 26th and was originally placed in a shared room with other travelers. However, her roommates complained to hotel management about her odd behavior. They said she would leave strange notes on their beds and that her behavior made them uncomfortable. The hotel moved Elisa to a private room. For the next few days, Elisa maintained contact with her parents. She called them regularly and posted on social media. But on January 31, 2013, the day she was supposed to check out and travel to Santa Cruz, Elisa's parents didn't hear from her. This was highly unusual. When they couldn't reach her, they immediately contacted the Los Angeles Police Department. Police arrived at the Cecil Hotel and began investigating. They searched Elisa's room but found her belongings still there, including her laptop, luggage, and personal items. There were no signs of struggle or foul play. It was as if she had simply stepped out and vanished. The hotel's management reviewed security footage and found something deeply unsettling. The last known sighting of Elisa Lam was in the hotel elevator, and what the camera captured was so bizarre that it would become one of the most analyzed pieces of footage on the internet. On February 14th, police released the elevator surveillance video to the public, hoping someone might recognize Elisa or provide information about her behavior. The video is approximately 4 minutes long and shows Elisa entering the elevator alone. Here's what happens in the footage. Elisa enters the elevator and presses multiple floor buttons. She then steps to the side, appearing to hide in the corner. She peeks her head out repeatedly, as if checking if someone is there. The elevator doors remain open the entire time, never closing despite the buttons being pressed. Elisa then steps out of the elevator and stands in the hallway. She makes strange hand gestures, moving her arms and hands in unusual ways, almost as if she's talking or gesturing to someone. But there's nobody visible in the hallway with her. She steps back into the elevator, presses more buttons, then exits again. She appears agitated and confused. At one point, she seems to be counting on her fingers. Her body language suggests fear or distress, but it's unclear what she's reacting to. Finally, Elisa walks away from the elevator and the doors close. She is never seen again on any hotel surveillance cameras. The video sparked immediate debate. Was she hiding from someone? Was she experiencing a mental health crisis? Why wouldn't the elevator doors close? Some viewers claimed the footage appeared to be slowed down or edited, making her movements seem even more unnatural. After releasing the footage, the search for Elisa intensified. Police brought in search dogs, helicopters, and dive teams. They searched the surrounding area, nearby buildings, and even the Los Angeles River. The case gained massive media attention, and amateur detectives on the internet began their own investigations. The Cecil Hotel was thoroughly searched multiple times. Police checked every room, every floor, stairwells, basement areas, and even the roof. But there was no trace of Elisa. It was as if she had simply vanished into thin air. Meanwhile, guests at the Cecil began complaining about problems with the hotel's water. They reported that the water pressure was low, the color was strange, and worst of all, the water had a terrible taste and smell. Some guests said it tasted sweet and disgusting. The hotel maintenance staff investigated the water system. On February 19, 2013, nearly 3 weeks after Elisa disappeared, a maintenance worker climbed the roof to inspect the hotel's water tanks. The Cecil Hotel had 4 large water cisterns on the roof that supplied water to the entire building. When the worker opened one of the tanks and looked inside, he made a horrifying discovery. Elisa Lam's body was floating in the water tank. She was naked, and her clothes and belongings were floating near her body. Hotel guests had been drinking, bathing, and washing with water from the tank that contained her decomposing remains. The discovery raised more questions than it answered. How did Elisa get into the water tank? The tanks were on the roof, which was supposed to be locked and inaccessible to guests. To reach the roof, someone would need to bypass alarms and lock doors. Then they would need to climb a ladder to reach the platform where the tanks were located. The water tanks themselves presented another mystery. Each tank had a heavy lid that would be difficult for one person to open alone. The opening was relatively small. How did Elisa get inside? And if she climbed in herself, how did the lid close behind her? The autopsy was performed, but the results were inconclusive in some ways. The medical examiner found no signs of physical trauma or assault. Toxicology tests showed that some of Elisa's prescription medications were not in her system at therapeutic levels, suggesting she may not have been taking her bipolar medication as prescribed. However, there were no illegal drugs or alcohol in her system. The official cause of death was ruled as accidental drowning. The coroner suggested that Elisa's bipolar disorder may have led to erratic behavior, and she somehow made it to the roof, climbed into the water tank, and drowned. Her death was classified as accidental with bipolar disorder listed as a significant contributing factor. But many people, including Elisa's family and various investigators, found this explanation insufficient. Too many questions remained unanswered. Let's examine the main theories surrounding Elisa Lam's death. Theory 1. Mental health crisis. The most widely accepted explanation is that Elisa experienced a severe manic episode or psychotic break related to her bipolar disorder. If she wasn't taking her medication properly, this could have led to paranoia, hallucinations, and irrational behavior. This would explain the elevator footage, her strange gestures, and apparent fear of something invisible. In this state, she may have found a way to the roof, perhaps through an unlocked door or emergency exit. Once there, she could have climbed into the water tank for reasons that made sense only to her at that moment and tragically drowned. Supporters of this theory point to the fact that there was no evidence of foul play and that her behavior in the elevator was consistent with someone experiencing a psychiatric emergency. Theory 2. Foul play and cover-up. Many people believe Elisa was murdered and that someone helped place her body in the water tank. They argue that it would be nearly impossible for her to access the roof, open the heavy tank lid, climb inside, and have the lid close behind her, all alone. Some theorists suggest that hotel staff or other residents may have been involved. They point to the Cecil Hotel's dark history and the possibility that dangerous individuals were living in the building. Questions about how thoroughly the hotel was searched and whether security footage from other cameras was reviewed add to the suspicion. However, police investigators stated they found no evidence of another person's involvement, and all hotel staff and guests were questioned extensively. Theory 3. Supernatural explanations. Given the Cecil Hotel's notorious history, some believe paranormal forces were involved. Theorists point to the hotel's past connections to serial killers and deaths, suggesting the building is haunted or cursed. The strange behavior in the elevator footage is cited as evidence that Elisa was reacting to something supernatural. Some claim to see shadowy figures or anomalies in the video. Others draw connections to horror films and urban legends. While these theories are popular online, there is no evidence to support supernatural involvement, and investigators have dismissed these claims. Theory 4. The tuberculosis test theory. An interesting theory emerged connecting Elisa's case to a tuberculosis outbreak in downtown Los Angeles around the same time. The medical test for tuberculosis is called the Elisa test. Some found it eerily coincidental that a woman named Elisa Lam died in a hotel near the epicenter of a TB outbreak. However, this appears to be nothing more than a disturbing coincidence. There's no evidence connecting her death to the tuberculosis cases or any deliberate conspiracy. Theory 5. She was being followed. Some investigators and online sleuths believe someone was following or stalking Elisa. They analyze the elevator footage and suggest she was hiding from a real person, not hallucinations. Her behavior at the hotel and the complaints from her roommates might indicate she was aware of a genuine threat. This theory gains some traction when considering that the elevator doors never closed during the footage, which some suggest could indicate someone was preventing the doors from closing from outside the camera's view. However, investigators found no evidence of another person, and the elevator may have simply malfunctioned. Despite the official ruling of accidental death, many aspects of Elisa Lam's case remain unexplained or deeply troubling. How exactly did she access the locked roof? How did she manage to open the heavy water tank lid by herself? Why did her behavior change so dramatically in the days before her death? Was she being followed, or was it all in her mind? The elevator footage continues to haunt viewers worldwide. Whether you see it as evidence of a mental health crisis, something supernatural, or a young woman genuinely afraid for her life, depends on your perspective. But everyone who watches it feels the same sense of unease. Elisa's family was devastated by her death and frustrated by the lack of clear answers. They settled a wrongful death lawsuit with the Cecil Hotel, though the terms were not disclosed. The hotel eventually closed and is currently being converted into affordable housing. Elisa Lam's case has been featured in documentaries, podcasts, and countless YouTube videos. It sparked important conversations about mental health, the treatment of vulnerable travelers, and hotel security. But most of all, it remains one of the most enigmatic and disturbing disappearances of the modern era. What do you think happened to Elisa Lam? Was it a tragic accident caused by mental illness, or is there something more sinister behind her death? Leave your theories in the comments below. If you want us to investigate more cases like this, please subscribe to the Missing Files and hit that notification bell. Share this video to help keep Elisa's story alive and spread awareness about mental health and traveler safety. Until next time, stay safe, and remember, sometimes the truth is more disturbing than any theory.